so we definitely need to be really conscious of where we're putting our focus and what we're, what information we're spending time with.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a time for really high-level discrimination of what we input, that is what we receive, and also what we output, because, we're creating all of it. We're so powerful.
Exactly.
We're so powerful. We must remember how powerful we are. And we're creating it, thought by thought, minute by minute. And now we have that choice to create.
Hello and welcome. Campbell here from Spiral Up. Hope you're having a magnificent day. Today we have another chat and we have Rama with us, and we are going to talk about basically what Rama does and his work. And well, I'm just going to let him explain it, and we'll just jump straight into it. So welcome, Rama.
Oh, thank you, Campbell. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Bridging to you across this great southern land from the two extremes. I'm talking from my home here. I'm on 2 very green acres of an inner earth portal just above Byron Bay. The ocean is just over the hill. And so one of my favorite meditations is my dawn surf, being in the ocean on my board as the sun comes out of the ocean. Lately, a lot of whales and their calves heading back to the South Pole, lots of dolphins. It's nice. Where I send my codes into the ocean as well. So this is home. Oh. So bridging to you over to Perth and to the 3 beautiful pyramids offshore of the west coast of Australia.
Oh, really? Oh, well, we definitely have to talk about that a bit more in depth, maybe on our next conversation.
Yeah. So I'd like to celebrate today, the full moon, actually. Full moon today. So let's just celebrate that. Let's celebrate that we've enjoyed, learnt, perhaps struggled through this last cycle of the moon with all that's going on, and brought, as much of our light and our love and our wisdom to whatever experiences come across our path. So I'm celebrating Campbell as well, because yesterday was the first official day of my School of the Sacred Masculine. And it's a 44-week online training for men that officially began yesterday. And I have a beautiful group of men across 5 continents, all wonderful men doing great work, and all wanting to go deeper, because it's about the restoration of the brotherhood of light in service to the earth and in service to humanity. And funnily enough, it was conceived in Poland in 2017. Kalyan and I had just run a Sacred Union workshop, and I was meditating early morning and asking for the next unfolding piece of the divine plan as it pertains to me. And a group of beings, light beings, came to me and said, very clearly said, Rama, it's time to create the School of the Sacred Masculine. And I accepted the commission. I began doing my men's work when I was called in 1987. I've been running mixed groups for about 5 years up to that point. But I was called to focus on men's work, and so I did. And about a year after doing that, I was called to, when a woman came to me where I was living and said, I want you to initiate my 13-year-old son. So I had to dive deep and feel and explore what initiation means in this current day. And that began my work with teenagers. And I took that, I worked privately and freelance, but I also took that in mainstream, if you like, and I I met a group of like-minded people who wanted to take the personal growth work, particularly relationship and sexuality work, into the schools. And we got a nice chunk of federal funding, actually. And we were able to begin creating and delivering those programs for thousands of teenagers. And that began in the year 2000. And I'm sort of known as the grandfather of the program. And that program is ongoing and is still receiving federal funding and has become a template for other schools and centres around the country as well.
Nice.
I can say that undercover I was attempting to teach tantric sexuality, or at least kind sexuality, and some of the fundamental relationship skills that we all need. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've done chats on this before. The whole masculine thing. It's obviously both sort of sexes have been attacked, but masculinity has really been attacked, and from the perspective of there's no role models, because of course all the dads are out working all day, they're not around the sons, so there's no constant role model there. And what the kids are given are, when I was growing up in the 80s, it was Rambo and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all this tough macho. And the other thing which I've thought about my whole life is what you mentioned, is initiation and ceremony. We don't have them, and so there's no point or no journey where a boy becomes a man, where he joins the men's group and leaves the boys, as used to happen. It was you'd go through a process and then you would become initiated and you would be an adult, and that doesn't exist anymore. So we have all these people, especially males, out in society who don't really know where they fit in. They're not sure what they're supposed to do. They're emulating, all these sort of, role models that are put up, all these stars and Hollywood types. And we're in a bit of a pickle. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's some good men. I mean, I've done it myself, really explored what initiation means. And I've taken many groups of teenage boys up mountains and into the ocean, into sacred lakes, and the land itself, Aboriginal Bora rings. We have a couple close handy here. I'm very fortunate in this region. There's many powerful initiation sites, and so some of us have developed programs specifically. In fact, last year I was asked to take some 7-year-old boys into, which was let's get everything's happening younger. So there have been, some of us have been doing our best to create and recreate, like drawing on the best of the traditions from around the planet, but also creating in the moment, in the now, those initiations for our boys so they can adapt to the current culture, but also create a new culture, an emerging culture, what we would call a galactic culture. Yeah, which has all those higher ideals and virtues of strength, of compassion, of communication, of empathy, of power, of true power, the right use of power, the magnanimous use of power for the highest good of all. And so holding those templates, and that comes through many, many lineages. And a lot of my work with men is to try to help them remember, to awaken their own lineage, whether it comes from the East or the West, and the galactic lineage as well, because what's been wreaking havoc on the planet is the distorted masculine as it's come from certain galactic areas, yeah? And that's a large part of the process we're in now, is the beginning of the end. As so much light comes to the planet, then this is the beginning of the dissolving of this dark matrix that's held this earth and her inhabitants prison for so long.
I mean, I guess we're all going through a bit of an initiation at the moment, aren't we? A bit of an initiation of fire, I guess. Like what do you find are some of the major tenets of initiation?
Okay, let's say in the context, we'll stick with this context of the boys, the boys becoming men. The first is the ceremony of the mother's letting go. So the women being conscious, the women, the aunties, the grandmothers, the wise women, particularly the mother of the son, letting go of that cord and that cord of attachment. And that's often challenging for the women, to let go of the boy so he can become the man. So that's one of the very first steps. And then the boys, and sometimes to diffuse or soften the father-son relationship, because there's a lot of elements to it, not the least of which is competition for the affection of the mother, is to bring the uncles, the grandfathers, and, you know, the wise men of the group, of the tribe, of the community. And so those men create the crucible, the container, to hold these boys, and using, let's say, the power of the land, and teaching these boys how to read energy, that is, to put them back in touch with their sensitivity, the sensitivity to energies, to give them a reflection of the soul. Yes, you're inhabiting a 13, 14-year-old body, but your soul is ancient. And we, us older men, are going to embody the elder, regardless of our chronological age, and we're going to reflect that to you. But you're also going to be challenged. It might be the climbing of the mountain. It might be the diving into cold water. It might, there's usually a physical sort of component to it, a physical component and an emotional component. You know, what has been held back? Is there any grief in letting go of your mum? Because there's enormous tension in us at that age. There is the pull of the child for, you know, dependence and no responsibility and just having fun. And then there's the other pull that's pulling us forward into adulthood, into responsibility. And so there's that tremendous inner tension, and holding that and helping to balance that within our boys. And then the other component is, you know, if you like, spiritual. That is teaching them, opening up the energy, the portal of wherever we are, and teaching them how to connect with their guides, any angelic beings, teaching them that those experiences they will have had as a child, somewhere along the line, interspersed when their soul was talking to them, and maybe they've never ever talked about it. But we give them permission and create space where they can share those spiritual, galactic, cosmic, transcendent experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. Be who they really are.
Yeah. And so we create that sort of container, and we challenge them and we call them. And there's something I love doing, and that's this is a long day, which begins around 2 a.m. And from here, we drive for an hour or so to Wollumben, which is a male initiation site, local mountain. Climb the mountain in the darkness, letting go of the old, letting go. We climb slowly and consciously. We arrive on top before sunrise, because this is the point on the east coast of Australia where the rays of the sun first strike. And so we face the sun in order to receive the new. And then we begin to receive, after we let go of the past, maybe let go of the child or the boy, we begin to ask and receive on this very sacred mountain that's got thousands of years of ceremony, of history embedded in its fiber. And so then we asked, what's our vision? As we're illuminated by the light of the sun, what's our vision for the man I want to be? Yeah. Go down the mountain, have a beautiful big breakfast in the valley, drive to the ocean, Lennox Head, into the ocean, cleansing, into the sacred lake, which, by the way, is a women's lake. Many many babies have been birthed and nurtured around this lake over thousands of years. More cleansing in the lake. And then we go to a Bora ring, a round ring, still maintained, which is specifically for adolescent boys. And so we do ceremony in there. Yeah, we go deeper and deeper as the day goes on. And then we go to the top of Lennox Head and expansive views, ocean, and then we ask them to speak their vision for themselves for the future. Yeah.
Nice.
Who do they want to become? So it's a long day, and by this time it's getting towards sunset, and then we usually go and have like a big celebration dinner together, something like that. That's one of my very favorite days.
Wow. I mean, that that sounds awesome. Definitely something, that I never went through anything like that. It's interesting that you mentioned the physical thing, because I mean, it's I'm of the opinion that we have three bodies, at least, the mental, spiritual, physical. So to affect change in one, obviously, often you need to affect change in others, don't you? Or at least, if you shock the physical, you can then affect change in the mental and other states like that. And the other bit you touched on is, which this has been popping up in my, my vision a lot lately, is this, whatever you want to, hiding God, whatever you want to call it, hiding, the fifth element, the connection to spirit. It's been more than severed. It's been mocked. We've been taught that that doesn't exist. That's silly. All these, footage, National Geographic of actual, ceremony, and that it's just all played down to silliness, and they're just dancing and blah blah blah. But clearly, there's something there. I mean, we've all heard of spirit animals, and connecting to that with as part of ceremony, and you basically just mentioned the same thing. So there's definitely, and we're missing something, and I think connection is probably the main thing. Connection to ourselves and to spirit and the greater or the bigger perspective, I guess, of who we are.
Yeah, I think we're addressing the most fundamental human need, beyond the need for shelter, for food, for love, for affection, for touch. The most fundamental need is to know without a doubt that we are eternally connected to Source, eternally. And the onslaught of the Western materialistic, etc., and all the distractions therein has, in a sense, stolen that. But the fundamental hunger, the starvation, really, for that knowing, that connection. This is where the greatest fulfillment lies, and that's what we're trying to reinstitute. Remember that fundamental, that fundamental connection. Once I was taken on a journey to Andromeda, and at first it was a little bit of shock because of the scale and this beautiful. I was taken above a harbour, and everything was huge. But I was struck firstly by the beauty of the architecture, the beauty of the technology, the silence of everything, the ships and the aircraft. And that was stunning in itself. But what was even more stunning was here was a civilization that was living under the law of one, the law of oneness and the law of love. There was no dark matrix. There were no filters or constraints to the pure light and pure love and wisdom and intelligence to stream through. So every child was loved, nurtured, educated to bring forth their own unique God-given creativity that would benefit them, benefit their community, benefit the civilization. So there was this sense of thriving and of every single being living under that universal law of oneness, which is, I believe, the manifest destiny of Earth. We just don't
Yeah,
quite know the timing, but we're holding that vision that as this dark matrix is dissolved and dissolved, and as the earth is liberated, humanity is liberated, the creatures are liberated, then this is our destiny.
yeah. That's why this role doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it just makes so much sense that's, you know, if everyone is allowed to be themselves and use their connection, which is creativity as well, then clearly, you know, everything goes forward so quickly. And that's the thing, change can happen so fast when we're all connected. And obviously something is going on at the moment, Rama. You've been in Clownland for the last 20 months or so. And obviously we've had, you know, there's a lot of talk of Age of Aquarius, you know, 5D, Ascension, all this kind of stuff. What are your views on that? What is
they're all
tell me.
Yeah, they're all really big questions, and there's many good people inputting their perspective. If we take the concept of ascension, well, personal ascension can be very much learning how to travel through the higher dimensions while still staying embodied on the earth. But the key to this is the passport of the open heart. This is what holds the key. Once the heart is sufficiently purified, then we are given a passport to travel the universe. But, you know, the earth has been under quarantine because, hey, a lot of humans are not particularly safe. But it is our birthright, as it was on, say, Lemuria, you know, say Atlantis, to be able to travel the higher dimensions, bring the brilliance and the wisdom and the teachings and the guidance from those dimensions while still being in a human body. And that's a state, that's a place of the most wondrous, and these words don't describe it enough: bliss, ecstasy, joy, love, deep fulfillment. And we can learn how to do that. We can teach how to do that. But a lot of the teaching is by simply embodying it. That's the wildfire that we can potentially hold, so that we spark others, we help them to remember, simply by embodying the higher frequencies of light, of love. And we hold them. Now, planetary ascension, well, so the Earth, beautiful Mother Earth, third dimensional Earth, if you like, all her mountains and rivers and oceans and soils and creatures and air. As she is pulsed and infused by the higher dimensional frequencies, we'll call them fifth, but by higher dimensional frequencies, then there's a great purification happens in the beginnings of the restoration, the air, the water. And so that's the ascension. She is taking her, when she descended from Tara into third dimensional Earth, and now she's ascending. And Gaia, now Gaia is, people often use, you know, Mother Earth and Gaia interchangeably, but my experience is that there is a beautiful physical Mother Earth with all her beauty and bounty and generosity and magnificence, really, and mystery.
Yeah.
But Gaia is much bigger than the physical Earth. Gaia is, as I see it, is a magnificent golden lattice work that surrounds but also infuses the earth.
Oh.
And so,
is it shaped like a toroid by any chance?
Well, I don't know. That's something different again. As I said, the toroidal fields are different.
That is the magnet, yeah.
Different again. But Gaia as a being, as a body, as a higher light body of Earth, to me, that's what it looks like. This magnificent, complex, golden grid lattice work that is at quite a specific distance from the physical Earth. And the Earth is moving into a, we know about the photon belt, into a, I guess, a space and time intersection where she can receive and sustain. I had an experience last year, not long after this other nonsense started, and I was shown that emanating from the very heart of the galactic center was streaming countless superfine golden particles of light, like golden stardust. And this was emanating from the heart of that sun, the galactic center, and into the galaxy, and being focused by our sun, by Sol, and into our solar system. And that's been constant with me. And that's, as you say, it's about nearly 20 months now. Constant and getting stronger. And these particles affect every particle of life on Earth. And if we're willing to receive those into our mind, our brain, for recalibration into accessing higher dimensions and recalibration of the heart, and then ground being the conduits to bring these higher light frequencies into the heart of the Earth and to humanity as well.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I see it as like a frequency rising kind of thing, but you definitely have to accept it, don't you? Which is probably a lot of what's going on at the moment is obviously getting people in a state where they won't accept it. Do you see a split, like everyone, we hear all this talk about a split, some people will rise, lift their energy up, some won't, new earth, all this kind of talk. How do you interpret that?
The short answer, Campbell, is I don't know. There are many who are awake spiritually or at least, intellectually to what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. And that number is rising. I believe we are getting close to critical mass. I believe.
I agree.
I will tell you, I'm a stepfather of 5 children, currently have 3 grandchildren, large family I love dearly. They're beautiful human beings. They relate to some of my beloved's work, but not all. And so, the human part of me that is attached, if you like, connected, but I'm also in a process of letting go. Many people are leaving. I can tell you, I just heard a few days ago from a dear friend in Sydney that 6 men that he knows have suicided recently. Another friend, her brother-in-law, just suicided. That's 7 in Sydney recently. So that's some of the fallout from what's been going on. So many beings are, for whatever reasons, choosing to leave. The outcome of these substances that are being delivered into people's bodies, we don't know. There are so many unknowns.
Yeah.
So many that I don't make predictions, actually, to be honest. However, I'm aware of what some other people are saying in predictions. I hold in my heart the liberation of all humanity.
Yeah.
I hold in my heart, and I work on this level, that even those ones who have chosen the path of darkness, of control, of greed, coercion, those ones who've chosen a dark path have an opportunity to turn to the light. There is always that soul choice.
Mm.
And I myself and other groups that I work with, we work on that level, that every human be liberated. you know,
I
and
think
you know the potential. If one of those dark hats, we'll call them, was to turn to the light and to use that vast and ill-gotten wealth, for example, you know, for the common good of all. But this is the drama, the scenario that we're in, you know, and I hold that vision of the liberation of all of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot to do with intention and where we want to put our focus, isn't it? And everything is trying to get us to focus on, you know, the bad and, you know, the story, the script they're running.
Yeah.
But all that's going to do is create it for them, right? And create what we don't want.
Yeah.
You know, so we definitely need to be really conscious of where we're putting our focus and what we're, you know, what information we're you know, spending time with.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a time for really high level discrimination of what we input, that is what we receive, and also what we output, because, you know, we're creating all of it. We're so powerful.
Exactly.
We're so powerful. We must remember how powerful we are. And we're creating it thought by thought, minute by minute. And now we have that choice to create. I mean, you know, on one level, I have a beautiful life. I surf with the whales and dolphins. I'm with my beloved. I have a beautiful family. I'm surrounded by the beauties and mystery of nature. I have community of men and women. It's on one level, it's a beautiful life that I've created. There's no question of that. And it would be my wish for every human being. And we can do this, and we can do it together. We can have what the Andromedans have. We can be in our full power, connectedness, our full love. We can create magnificence, and we can nurture. We can be the guardians of the earth here.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's all possible.
It is. Have you come across Tartaria at all, and the whole Tartaria topic of history? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I'm aware of that stream. I haven't gone into it in depth.
So,
Do
you think we've been there before? Like where we're going? Where have we been there before?
We've absolutely touched on it. Yeah.
So this is a lot of this is remembering, right? Putting back together, which is what remember means, right?
Yes.
Putting ourselves and the story back together, because clearly what they've attacked is the story, the script, who we think we are, where we think we came from, and this is why everyone's confused and, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So going forward, I mean, obviously, and it's another big theme, and you've mentioned it, you know, the heart, focusing on the heart. And I did a video a few days ago about this, because there's all this talk, you know, go to your heart, but, you know, how do you do that, right? What does that mean? And to me, I mean, just, you know, obviously smiling at people and things like that, but just sitting and literally putting your focus there in that area, I think definitely starts the process. What would your advice on that be?
It's the skill, and it's a skill of bringing the inside outside. So, Campbell, may I suggest we close our eyes? Okay. And let's take a deep breath. Let's breathe the holy breath deep into the center of our chest. Let's let go of all thoughts or conversations of the past. On the next breath, on the exhale, let's let go of all thoughts, all expectations of the future. As each breath, as we draw it into the heart center, in the center of our chest, takes us deeper and deeper and deeper into this eternal, now moment. And just as the physical breath ignites the miracle of the air into the blood, and so the miracle of the holy breath of the prana or the chi, or life force, pulses through our heart center, continually pulses through the eternal, golden, divine spark in our heart. And as the steady rhythm of the breath allows all of our body functions, blood pressure, heartbeat, nervous system to come into alignment and into a state of calm and balance. And there is a softening in the belly as the breath fills the belly. And there is a glowing in the heart center, which is our home. And here there is peace. Here there is joy. Here there is equanimity. And we focus our mind into the mind of our heart. And we look to the heart mind for our guidance in life. For it is unerring. For this is our heart light that connects us to all of life on this planet, from the largest blue whale to the smallest green frog, to the heart of the great condor as it flies. Our heart flame, connected to the heart flame of every living thing on earth, the great trees, the great mountains, the heart of the oceans. And our heart knows that we are loved, loved beyond measure by the Mother Earth, loved beyond measure by our Divine Mother, Father, Source Creator. We are loved and we are home in our heart. And slowly, when we're ready, we bring the inside outside. As we open our eyes, and our heart will know where it needs to go, for it will naturally outpour. It will naturally want to give. It may be that smile or eye contact. It may be that act of generosity or an act of compassion, or perhaps a communication that needs to happen. And the practice of knowing wherever we are in the outer world, we are home in our heart. We are home in our heart.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
And just for a visual, Campbell, I'll just show you Rosie, a friend of mine, Rosie Courts.
Nice.
Now, Rosie, who's sort of got a heart shape, has been in the family for about 34 years. And she has been the talking stone in many a circle that I facilitated, Kelly and I facilitated together.
Nice. Yeah, okay. I've heard of, we used to use talking sticks, but talking stones makes more sense because they absorb more intention, don't they, and energy.
And they transmit, and Rosie transmits a lot of love.
Yeah, right. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So did you want to touch on your course that you run? What kind of things do you touch on, teach about masculinity, and what's that all about?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, my School of the Sacred Masculine. This is the first week of 44 weeks. Beautiful men across 5 continents have signed on. And so we've just officially begun yesterday, the journey together. Although when the men register, they receive a preparation pack of a manual and recordings that I've made. And so I've already been working with the men as they've signed on in the last few months. And so we touch on many things. The healing of the emotional body is primary in men. The accessing of superconsciousness, teaching them how to access higher dimensions, teaching them how to braid with their higher selves. And I use that word deliberately because we have many higher selves. And teaching them how to braid with that higher self, how to connect, how to communicate. Teaching them how to embody their divine presence on earth. The steps, the pathways, the activations and initiations for embodying our divine presence on earth. You know, for a lot of men, the lone wolf, or sometimes we call him the solo emissary, it's true for many men. You know, it's a deep programming. It has its positive aspects in terms of resourcefulness, independence, self-reliance, yes, but it can also be a very lonely place. And we're coming out of that. We're learning how to work in group consciousness. And so this school is very much about rebuilding that brotherhood of light. And we're doing it, now with the wonders of the technology. It's an experiment, really, because I love live retreats. I love the smell, the touch, the feel, and I walk the path of the sacred shaman, which of course involves. I'm trained as a rebirth, a somatic psychotherapist, counselor, etc.
Okay.
So I have those learnt skills, but also teaching the men the innate skills of the warrior, of the healer, the shaman, he who works for the greatest good and the greatest light and the greatest compassion for his community, his tribe, and teaching them how to access that man inside of him, the healer, the teacher, the elder. And now I've got a range of ages. My youngest man is 30 and my oldest is 69. I myself am somewhat older. And so within that chronological range, and believe me, Campbell, I'm sure you've noticed that some of these magnificent younger men coming through now, you see the elder in them, you see they're on mission, you see they know how to collaborate, their hearts are open, their eyes are shining, you know, they're unstoppable. And that, as an older man, as the, you know, the grandfather and the elder, that inspires me. And yes, I love that they look to me as, you know, the elder and the grandfather. That's lovely. But I look to them and all the ones who are rising up around the planet, those ones who are, you know, going to the Australian embassies in those countries to stand up for, they see what's going on down under. You know, all these ones who are going to the streets, who are saying no. You know, the 70% of Romanians, now I haven't been to Romania, but I'm very interested. 70% of Romanians said no.
Nice.
No to these substances. And the government could not do anything, could not control, could not coerce, could not mandate. Enough of the people said no, we don't want that. If enough of the people say, no, we don't want that, we want to create this. We want to create something much more magnificent than what you're trying to force upon us. If enough of us say yes. So back to my school. So that's what we're endeavoring to teach, yeah? And you know, one of the strongest teachings is the learning and the skill of connecting so deeply to the heart of the earth, of knowing how deeply she loves. She loves all her creatures, but how deeply she loves humanity and her immense patience with humanity as we work through the dramas, the karma, etc., and the havoc that we wreak upon her. So that's one of the great teachings as well. And the healing of the emotional body for men. There's many tears need to be cried. And when we explore the soul lineages, like through the masculine pillar and even through the feminine and the soul pillars, and we remember that lineage, and we remember where we've shut down our heart, perhaps when we've, you know, walked the dark side, perhaps when we've betrayed ourselves or not listened to the whisperings of the feminine or the listenings of empathy. And so we need to retrieve those memories and forgive ourselves and perhaps shed the tears, the deep grief that, yes, you know, men and their emotions, yeah, permission to be angry, permission to grieve, not so easy.
Yeah.
Not so easy. You know, I believe if I fall into this great pool, this great puddle, this great ocean of this grief, I will become useless, dysfunctional. I will not be a useful member of society. You know, those fears. And so it's part of my work, my teaching, is to guide them through that emotional journey, which liberates. You know, it's the nature of healing. You open up a wound. Yes, that's the first part. It may not look pretty. You open the wound. You release it. You forgive. You liberate it. It may be the anger, the tears. It may be the deep remorse, the deep guilt. But you release that. And into that space comes the magic, the grace, and all of the teams of healers, angels who come in to heal that space after the release. And, and cognition or understanding may or may not happen immediately. My experience is that it may take time. The brain can't compute what's going on.
Mm.
There may be the deepest of releases that's coming from such a deep and ancient and profound place, but it's moving out of this body that I'm inhabiting now. It's moving out. I just like just a memory coming from Tasmania, actually. A few years ago. I remember this well because it was cold. It was -2. I remember it well. And we were working. A friend of ours had bought a church in Tasmania, a beautiful old Catholic church, solid brick, on a couple of acres, about an hour out of Hobart. And she'd bought it. It had already been converted into basically a residence, an Airbnb. So it had like 3 bedrooms, a beautiful big kitchen, but a beautiful big working room that had stained glass windows that when the light streamed in, it played beautiful colours. So this, for our group, this was our arena, our work, and we had a group, mixed group, men and women. It was about equal numbers, and we did our forgiveness ceremony. And in the forgiveness ceremony, I work with the men for a while. Kalyana works with the women, and then we come back together. And we have 2 semicircles facing each other, and the men step forward with what they've been working with, asking for forgiveness, forgiving themselves, asking for forgiveness from the women, and the women step forward and do the same. It's beautiful, it's moving. Remember, in Poland, we didn't even use our translators, and I don't understand Polish. I don't think anybody does. But we didn't need translation because the emotional language was so profound. In Tasmania, yes, it came through in English. And at the end, I opened myself up, and a number of beings embodied through me to speak to the women. And the first was a man who had been part of I'll call them the invading settlers of that part of Tasmania. And Tasmania came close to total genocide in terms of wiping out the original people. It was horrific. And he embodied through me and asked and begged for forgiveness for what he had visited, and his ancestors, or his family really, had visited upon the original people of the land. And he was asking permission of the Aboriginal mothers, the guardians. And then as he embodied through me and spoke through me, other men of that region, the Tasmania, gathered and asked forgiveness as well. And then he stepped aside, and then this being who looked and felt a bit like, Jabba the Hutt out of Star Wars, like a big, mean-looking being, right, with quite a voice and quite a language. And he used that language for a while. And then he also asked for forgiveness from the human women for what he and his group had done when they had invaded the earth and had mated with the human women. Yeah?
Yeah, right.
So, as I was mentioning earlier, that's the power. If we open up enough, if we create enough of a heart space, and there's the depth of forgiveness, for example, then our innate multidimensional nature can open up to those spheres of consciousness and those beings. And of course, that's one of the other things, I teach men and women how to do that live, how to allow that, how to feel safe enough and ready enough to allow that embodiment.
Mm.
The other side of that is, of those men in pain and grief and begging forgiveness. Yes, there's that side of it. But there's also the other side of being open enough to allow an embodiment of the purest and highest beings of light, angelic beings, galactic beings. And I've got, it's one of the greatest joys of my life. Greatest privileges to be able to embody and to open and to be the voice for some of these higher light beings. So on the school, I've got a primary overlighting team of Yeshua the Christ, of Saint Germain, of Lord Sirius, and Archangel Metatron, representing the if you like, the human, the angelic, and the galactic councils.
Metatron is the name of God in the Bible, isn't it? Is that right?
Well, Metatron is sort of like your overlighting angel.
Okay, right.
Overlighting.
Head honcho.
yeah, head honcho, if you like. Yeah. But very connected to the evolution of the Earth, and very connected. Metatron holds keys of ascension. And there's other male members as well. I also have Buddha and Babaji and Sanat Kumara. And then in the female team for the balance, I have the Magdalene, Lady Nada, Lady Portia, Lady Venus, and Lady Isis as well.
Nice.
And so
had a bit of a hammering lately, poor Isis.
Yeah. So that's the other side of and it's this hasn't happened overnight. I mean, yes, look, I had an initiation in a helicopter in Vietnam in 1969. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That embodiment of the warrior. And I was told that my path lies in medicine, and all I will need is what I have in my hands and my heart and my mind. And I'll be working with the people of the earth beyond any racial or political or technological boundary. I will be taking, even it still brings tears to my eyes, I'll be taking the people of the earth into the light. And that was in 1969, my friend.
Oh gosh. I'll have to have you back, and we'll have to just.
So look, what I'm saying with that is, it's taken a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of counseling, psychotherapy, doing deep inner work, meditations, looking at, addictions, looking at my sexual abuse, looking at all of those human experiences, healing, resolving, adding to, the experiences of my soul, without making them bad or wrong, making all of these experiences, the physical violence I've received, the sexual abuse, the drugs, I mean, all of those, the war, all of those, the women perhaps I've hurt, the men I've hurt, all of the forgiveness that's needed to have happened to bring me to, to this point in life, in a sense, So I guess what I'd say is to the men and to every woman, don't hold back from going on the journey. Don't make excuses, because yes, it takes enormous courage to face wounding and pain, and we maybe believe things will never change and things can never be forgiven. It's simply not true. But it takes will, focus, discipline, courage, all of those qualities.
Definitely.
But there are immense rewards. The rewards are just immense. And, and we do it together. We don't do it alone. We do it together. We support each other, love each other. Those of us who have, skills or keys, we hand those on. We teach them. We activate each other.
So a key, I've got a question for you. A key's harmonic, like a key, a harmonic key?
Ah,
Are they sung?
yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at two spellings of this word which sounds the same, right? And let's look at K-I apostrophe S, keys. Yeah?
Yep.
Keys. Now, quite often the phrase codes and keys are used together. Now, I see codes, and my beloved is a master code drawer, for example. I'll hold up to you from her series of the One Light of the Christ codes. She's drawn, I don't know, hundreds of codes. She's a master code drawer. And this one is known as, let me see.
So
This
these are
one is,
like
this is,
activation codes, yeah?
yeah, this is the Ascension chakra that she's drawn.
Wow.
This is one of 17 of a series. And these are known as the One Light of the Christ codes.
So these are similar to like the codes from Reiki? Similar sort of concept?
Yeah, probably.
Because in Reiki,
Yeah.
it's to do with, shape, geometrical shapes and things that they show you that's supposed to activate different things.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So codes like that one are usually flat, like, if you like paintings, drawings, etc. Yeah.
Yep.
And
you just stare at those, do you? You just meditate on them and.
Well, yeah, you look at them, you absorb them. In fact, in one workshop we're doing in Sydney, what we did is we made slides out of them so people would stand against a wall and have an entire code projected on their body. Now, that's a use of technology.
Wow.
But I digress. So these are codes. Now, keys, K-I-S, K-I apostrophe S, are more like three-dimensional geometric shapes. Think, for example, of a double inverted pyramid, or a six-pointed star, or a sphere, of course, or an oval. So think of them as more, if you like, third-dimensional,
the 3D cymatic shape kind of things.
Yeah. For example, our sun, Sol, has keys and codes, for example. So there's a differentiation. Okay, now the other word, K-E-Y-S, when we talk about Ascension keys, for example, or we might even talk about, the key to the heart. Quite often I'm working with somebody and I'm given a key, and it might look like, a golden key that would go into a lock, or sometimes it might look a little more, a little more galactic. It might have a particular shape. I might be shown a scroll, like an ancient looking scroll, or it might be like a shimmering tablet of super high frequency from, the 11th dimension of light, for example. So when we use that word of keys, and these are usually sort of personal to assist somebody to maybe open their heart to a certain area, or open a part of the mind or the brain to a certain area, or open another chakra. It might be a key that goes in to unlock that which has been locked and bound. Yeah? Does that differentiate?
Yeah. It does. It also, I have this problem. I see everything is the same as one thing, and I'm so it makes concepts like that hard for me sometimes, because it's the key to open. It sounds like frequency is what you're talking about, which brings us back to sound and music.
Yes, it's all
one, right? It's all the same.
Yes, it all is. It's all sound, color, frequency, light, and love.
Yeah.
And divine intelligence and divine wisdom and pure grace. It is. And my experience, when I go to certain octaves of light, I call them, then I will hear songs, melodies as well. And sometimes I may be given songs or a mantra, for example, the use of mantra and sacred sound. And there are certain mantras for the chakras, of course, So the combination of these elements, all interspersed, intertwined, interfused, all the light fields in which we inhabit all of the time, if we're willing to surrender. But there's a lot of purification that needs to go on. Purification of the third eye. A lot of things have shut down the third eye. But we're also being given a lot of gifts. There's a gift I'm often given to people that comes from the emissaries from Sirius. And it's a pure blue-white diamond with 64 facets, shimmering. And they often give to people to clarify, cleanse, and illuminate the third eye, to begin to return it to its former glory. And, we know some of the things that shut it down. But it's our birthright, It's our birthright to have that, and to be able to see the glories of the universe. But that's a journey, opening that up again.
And it seems to be coming so quickly into the consciousness. I'm just looking around, I see, the rise of, channels and people talking about, channeling and medium and tarot and remote viewing and all these skills, shall we call them, that we used to be told didn't exist, or, they were just wacko people, don't believe them. It seems to be coming mainstream really quickly. I mean, I'm suddenly surrounded by people who've got all these skills and I don't have any. So
excuse me, Campbell.
Whatever, a little bit.
All right. So if I could leave you with some homework, and that is to take that beautiful blue-white diamond. Now, the Sirius is so connected to the evolution of Earth, and you might want to think of Sirius as being the sort of spearhead of assistance to the evolution of the Earth. Yes, there's other wonderful centers. The Pleiadians have gifted us with the flowers and the healing of the flowers and signatures, and the Arcturians gift us with healing, and the Lyrians, the Andromedans gift us with the higher dimensional blueprints and the gift of prana. But Sirius at this time is in the forefront of assistance to the evolution of the Earth. And Sirius sends her ambassadors, the whales and dolphins. And we all know, we've all had those experiences. You look into the eye of one of those ancient beings, and they're pulsing us. They say that the whales weave the emotional body of the Earth, and the dolphins weave the emotional body of humanity. So that's the gift from Sirius, and Sirius comes with enormous joy. Think whales and dolphins. What do you think? Role models, communication, emotional intelligence,
Definitely.
Group consciousness, mastery, playfulness. Great beings, one and all. Great beings here in service to the Earth, in service to humanity.
It's interesting. Did you know that they're making a dolphin alphabet? Because they've made pictures of the sonar, the sounds, the sonar that they release, and they are just like that picture you showed. Just they're geometric shapes, basically fractal shapes.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting connection too.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important around the language we use, how we use our throat center. You know, does it raise frequency? Does it raise the frequency, or does it lower it? In every moment, we have a choice. Is it connected to my heart and to my higher mind? Is it connected to my power centers of my solar plexus and my navel center? You know, and therefore, when I speak, does the vibration of my voice and the words that I choose to use lower the frequency in my field or raise the frequency? And we have that choice.
Definitely.
Moment to moment. Moment to moment.
Indeed. All righty. Well, yeah, so thank you very much for your time. We've gone about an hour there. So if people want to learn more about you, you've got a couple of websites.
Yeah, well,
two main ones.
Yep. Yeah, Rose of Raphael is our work, and access to Kalyana's beautiful, you know, CDs, codes, essences. And actually, just on that note, in about 1995, she brought through, she was guided by, I believe, Melchizedek, to bring through a book called DNA Repatterning. And so she was given 67, I believe, codes, which she drew, and extensive information on each one to do with the human hormonal system. And she and I knew, like, my part in this is I've been her scribe and, you know, make her cups of tea. So I've scribed all this information, and it's been my total honor to be in her presence when she accesses those dimensions. And she brought this through in about 1995, 96. And we knew it was ahead of its time, but I firmly believe now the time has come. So, because what's been going on for quite a while is a direct assault on the disempowerment of humanity by attacking the endocrine system. And that assault has accelerated with these other substances.
Yeah, right.
And so the power that's in the codes, in the words, and in the essences are available. But anyway, you'll need to go to the Rose of Raphael website for that. And also my website for the school is simply School of the Sacred Masculine.
Great. We'll leave the links for those below as well.
Thank you.
Is your course, is that finished for this year, like the intake, or can people still get involved, or we got to wait till you got too many already, we've got to wait till next year?
No, look, it would be okay to join, you know, within the next month.
Okay.
It will be okay. There would be catch up, but it's a 44-week program, and it would be okay to join. If any man who's hearing this, or a woman who knows a man, feels they have a soul contract to join Rama's School of the Sacred Masculine, then please contact me.
Yeah,
and we'll talk.
Great. And we'll make sure there's contact and details below. So there you go. Well, thank you. That was really interesting. Kind of went in a different direction, but that was really, really good. So thank you for your time, Rama. And I'd definitely like to get you back to explore a few more of those concepts in the future, if you're willing.
I'm so willing. And as I said, with around our experiences with the crystal cities of light and the citadels, I love that both Kalyana and I, that we share this with you and with your audience. Yeah,
definitely. That will definitely be coming up as well. So anyone who's following the quest for the crystal city, we will be going into depth with what Rama knows about that, and floating citadels. So that, I better not mention anything else, or we will still be here in 3 hours talking.
Okay, great. Thanks, awesome. Cambell.
Thanks for your time. Okay. Have an amazing day.
Yeah, you too.
See you, mate.
Bye.
Bye.